Hey guys, thanks for mentioning with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to talk about the iPad mini 2 going into 2023. Now this year, this iPad is going to be making its decade year long since it was released. So it was released back in November of 2013. Yes, in 2013, and later this year, in the end of the year, it's going to make the 10-year mark, which is surprising for any iPad to make it this far. And most phones by that time, are pretty much go obsolete. But this iPad still is running. If you have it, you might notice that you can still use it. Now, the one thing we'll talk about this iPad here, it's one of the very first iPad that had Retina display with it, which made it really unique in that sense. It's a really compact, lightweight iPad itself. Now it is a 7.9-inch display. The mini series are on the smaller hand. Now the newer minis don't have like the home button, they're all screen, but this one, again, as you can see here, 7.9-inch display here. It does have on the back here a 7 megapixel camera, and the front has a 1.2 megapixel camera as well. Now here it's a lightweight body overall, very slim. Here you can see the hardware on it. It's a A7 chip with 1 gig of RAM, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is pretty much for its time. It's pretty much a powerful device at the time when it was released, but nowadays, of course, it has gone its ages. But the other thing to mention about is the iPads, when they come with the battery, it's a huge battery on this. Is a 6471 mAh battery. It's generally supposed to last you 7-8 hours of just normal usage, but if you're a heavy user, maybe 5 hours or so you would expect. Now, as you can see here, this iPad may not have all of the latest and the greatest hardware for it, but you can see here we have apps that we downloaded. Now, don't be fooled by the apps that are downloaded here. Most of these apps that we have an older version that allow you to pretty much function. For example, YouTube here, as you can see here, we have YouTube here, older version of it. We can still pretty much play any videos here. You'll notice there is lag when you try to open up videos and try to click on anything in general. You'll kind of feel that for the most part, but that's kind of it for it. And then all these other apps as well here, from social media apps and much more. You'll notice here the iPad mini 2 here, if you try to go for a software update here, you won't be able to update it past iOS 12. You do still get these security updates and minor bug fixes that Apple still continues to support, which is really surprising considering that the iPad now are up to iOS 16. So this is 4-year iOS, so it's pretty much aged in a lot of ways for this iPad. So when it comes to all of that, and if you look at the software itself here, as we mentioned here, it's a decent sized battery. Most apps here, one of the things I notice here with it is if you go to the App Store and try to download an app, a lot of times you'll encounter this issue where it's not compatible because of iOS 12, because the latest version of that app might not be able to get that. In those cases, what will happen is there is a method that you can download older version of it, which will leave a link in the description section for you guys, so if you guys want to check that out so you don't have that issue. But a lot of times apps that are newer, that was released after this iPad on a newer iOS version, just won't be compatible with it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to like things like basic browsing on this iPad, as you see here, I'm opening up Safari, and it does take some time. I have a decent Wi-Fi, but when you're going to browsing, that 1 gig on that A7 chip, it is a little bit slow. You see up to 5-6 seconds of delay before it opens, and when pages load up, depending on what page you're going on, sometimes it takes a bit for the images to load up as well. But for anyone looking to browse around, you do have to be a little bit patient. Now, if you compare this to like one of the iPhone 6, probably is a good comparison for this iPad. It's similar kind of performance. You see, well, you do get things going on for it, but again, it does take some time when it comes for that. Other thing to mention, when it comes to gaming, there is light graphic gaming. So what I mean by 2D games are pretty much the most that you can run on it. If you're trying to play like 3D games or games meant to play on the console, you won't be able to do that because it doesn't have that kind of hardware for it. As you can see here, when I open up apps, most apps generally tend to take a little bit time to open up, even with this 2D game here. But once it opens up, you should be able to play without any issues. I'm going to just slide here quickly just to show you the performance of anything. But again, here, as you see here, even when it loads on a phone or a newer iPad, this generally just goes really quick. But again, it's one of those things we want to kind of show you guys why this video why the performance of this iPad kind of goes to going into 2023. So here, as you can see here, we'll try to play this game really quick just to show, but this is just to show that, again, it does take some time when you're playing games to kind of get it going here. So here, as you can see here, you do see a bit of lag here with these kind of games, and that's expected because of the age that this iPad has endorsed. So you're going to be expecting on those here, but then there's other games which, again, that might not require all of that for it, and that kind of will work for you. So you can see here other games are not as too much animation going on, will work fine for you. So in terms of gaming, iPad, probably for someone looking to do really light gaming, don't expect too much. When it comes to things like social media, you'll be able to use a lot of your social media apps, but remember, it's going to be an older version of it. For example, here I have TikTok here. It does take a little bit of time, as I mentioned, similar to the browsing experience. You're going to have to be very patient with some of the apps sometimes when you're using it, but once you get going, you should be able to kind of start watching your TikTok, your Instagram stuff, even Snapchat. All of that should kind of work for you eventually if you get it downloaded, and going to give it some time here. You can also see YouTube Kids here if you're using it for it, and that's where I want to mention why this iPad would be worth it. It would be worth it good for like a younger kids, generally in the early younger kids, because they might be able to play games and go to YouTube and things like that. But if you're looking for anything decent, we would not recommend this iPad for if you're thinking of getting it. If you have it laying around, yeah, sure. If you don't want to spend money on a newer iPad, stick with it for what it's worth. It's almost at the end here, if not already at the end of its life here, because it doesn't get any more updates. It's not enough hardware to do a lot of things. It's just one of those things. If you have it laying around, might work for you, but if you're thinking of getting it, we don't recommend getting it in 2023. What we do recommend getting it is like iPad mini 5 or later. Now the minis are up to mini 6, so if you're really going for a mini here because of the smaller compact size, we recommend a 5 and above, just because you don't want to you want an iPad that lasts longer. But this iPad is around $60-70 if you're looking for it on eBay or on Amazon, which will leave the link in the description section if you guys want to still get it, because for a younger kid it might not really matter if they're just playing for a light game. So that's kind of our review of it. Again, almost a 10-year iPad, really not worth it for anyone besides really younger kids, because apps that we use will function, but again, some won't. Some of the newer apps, and then apps that do function generally take a really long time, or if it does take sometimes they crash and then you have to reopen it, which can be quite annoying. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If so, please make sure to like and subscribe button. We want to hear from you guys as well. If you guys have been using or use the iPad mini, to leave a comment in the comment section. And thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.